Hey guys, welcome back to the Batar Project. I am your host, Nick Batar. Today, I'm joined by Cain Rice, brother. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to jump on.
No, thank you for having me. I've been waiting to do something like this, so you're the first, so cannot wait to get into it.
I love taking podcast opportunities, man. It's such a good feeling.
It will be. I'm sitting here like, oh, nervous. Yeah. But then you just get into it and then it just goes out the window.
Yeah, bro. Like with my podcast, I just like to make it like two mates having a chat, talking about life and all that kind of stuff. So it'll be chilled.
Banging.
So, dude, I love to start my podcast. What are you grateful for today?
My life.
Yeah.
It's I could break down a million things I'm grateful for. This laptop in front of like a million things, but at the end of the day, having life is enough. So you've just got to remember that every day. That's the one thing, especially with the bike crash that I had. Life, that's you get a deeper connection with those sort of things. So definitely just life, man.
Yeah, exactly. It can be taken away in a fucking heartbeat.
Blink of it in out of your control, in your control, it can just taken away like that, and it's the blink of an eye.
Yeah. Do you want to give me a bit of backstory and listeners, a bit of backstory on who you are and maybe some of your upbringing and stuff like that, and then we'll dive into the accident and what you just recently accomplished.
Yeah, cool. Well, essentially, I'm from Adelaide. My upbringing was very normal, you could say. In school, I had good parents. I wouldn't say I had it hard at all by any means. As a child, I tried to make it hard because I had it so easy. So other than that, growing up in school, I was always into sports. But the one thing that I didn't realize until after, I was very good at athletics. I had a good talent for it, but the work ethic wasn't there. Not wanting to do hard session was never there. And that's what sort of brought me to realizing nowadays to get on the other side of doing things you hate. So my upbringing was a lot of athletics, a lot of soccer and those things. And then I went off on my partying years between like 19 and 21. And then from there, I got into the bike crash. I was still just working away normally, just partying as some people do. And then I had a bike crash on 2019 in 2020, sorry. So the year before that, I had a complete ankle reconstruction, which sort of gave me a blood clot the week later. That was of April of 2019, sorry. And then the week I got out my moon boot, I had a stress fracture on my foot, trying to climb up a mountain here the day I got out the moon boot, which was very silly. And then I was back in the moon boot for an extra couple of months. Got out of that. The week I got out of that, I jumped back on the bike and I tore my rectus abdominal, where it attaches to my oblique. So I dealt with that for a year, and then it comes around to 2020 when I had the bike crash. And this was one of my first proper rides back, and one of my first proper rides ever, full stop, really. And that's where I had the crash.
Fuck.
The very big one.
At the time, were you training? I seen something on your page. You were training to ride around Australia. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the goal at the start was essentially that wasn't until after that crash. I was sort of on the table, on my bed with my blood clot and my 3 spinal fractures, thinking I'm going to ride around Australia a year from now, which would bring us to August this year. So I had the bike crash that was up a crave. So I came down the hill at about 83 kilometers per hour, smashed into the tree. And that whole episode is what sort of brought me to, I want to ride around Australia. So the original plan was to ride around Australia, which was 384 kilometers per day for 37 days to break the record. That was in Mother Nature's hands whether I was going to make that or not. But then Corona came around this year in June and blocked off leaving. And it's a lot of investment to go and do something like this off your own back. So if I couldn't get out of States, then the purpose of, I couldn't really do the ride around Australia. So I sort of had to think of something quick, smart with a month and a half to go to change it to, because if I say I'm going to do something on a day, I'm going to do something hard on that time, like that day. I'm not going to postpone it. You've got to do what you say. And even if I've changed the plan, you still stick to it and do it. So that was what happened sort of with the ride. I trained for that for about a year, just under. And then in June this year, at the end of June, the Corona hit, and then I had to change it to what I attempted, which was 60 kilometers per day for 50 days, because I had no idea if it was going to be possible. And that's really why I chose that. So it was a bit of a mess around going from the ride to the walk, completely different. and that just threw everything off. But originally it was the ride around Australia before anything else.
What got you into riding? Did you always have like a passion for it, or?
No, David Goggins got me into suffering ultra endurance, the
Yeah.
endurance thing hit me very hard. And obviously when I had the ankle surgery and the blood clots, I couldn't run because my ankle was very bad for 2 years. And so I decided to pick up the bike and just go for gold and just see what can happen. And then I had a lot of injuries through that, where it was just a lot of niggling things like the stress fracture, another bike crash this year in May where I broke my arm. And that was a month before we had to pull it as well. So I had all these things, and it was the riding, which I didn't have a necessarily passion for. So everyone's saying, do you want to be a rider? Do you want to be a cyclist? I was like, no, it just happened to be this challenge. I just said, I'll ride around Australia because I can't walk around it right now. I'll run around it or I'll run across it. So that was where it sort of came from.
Yeah. I think you should stay off bikes, eh?
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking, because it's funny. I had that crash, and this year I got knocked off my bike by a car, and then the first ride back the week later is when we were stuck in the tram tracks, and I came off and broke my arm. So I think I agree staying off the bikes. I think I might stay on the 2 feet.
Yeah, you might live a bit longer.
I know. Well, that was the whole thing. Once I had that crash, I was like, if I'm going down hills from now, whether I'm running down mountains or anything, it's going to hurt if you go slow. It's going to hurt if you go fast. So you may as well have fun with it and face the consequences of your actions, really. So
Exactly.
That was. Yeah,
So
whole thing.
that first crash, you came down a hill and you lose control and straight headfirst into a tree, was it?
Yeah, so I came down it was around between 78 and 83 kilometers per hour. And I came around, we were actually meant to, the funny thing is, we were meant to turn the corner right before this corner, but the guy that I was riding with thought I meant a different way. So we went, and I had no idea what was around that corner. So I had no idea how fast to go, when to brake. Came around it. I saw that we had to turn again. And by the time I lined my wheels up, I slipped on like some bark and some leaves on the ground. And by the time I lined up, I went, oh shit, that looks like a good spot to land. And it was a tree, and then it went up like that. And my front wheel hit the sign that was about a meter in front of the tree. And I went head first, top of my helmet, into the tree. And that's what ended up. I didn't wake up for about 15 minutes. The ambos, by the time 2 ambos got up to me, that's when I became conscious, when they were over me. And they had to get up to the hill as well. So it was over 10 minutes. And I wasn't conscious for that time at all. I was just laying there on the ground. So I came out of that with a fractured arm, the 3 spinal fractures from T1 to T3. And then I gave myself a blood clot a week later by wearing a compression sleeve on my knee that curled up like a rubber band under my knee overnight. And I woke up and I moved my ankle and I said, I've got another blood clot in my leg. And then that was the story of the next one.
Fucking hell. That would have been scary, bro. Like, what was going through your mind when you're just laying on the floor and fucking paramedics and shit over you?
Well, the first thing I had was green whistle, so I was in loopy land. I was having a lot of fun. I knew, because I remember the split. I get shivers when I think about it. The split second moment when I think to myself, oh shit. Like, I couldn't even imagine crashing that fast. So I was sort of like, I'll land there and I'll just graze myself and it'll be all right. I'll be fine. And then I woke up, and then it wasn't really until, I don't know when it hit me, to be honest with you, because after the green whistle, I refused painkillers in the hospital. So I sort of come to it, and you got to sort of face the pain head on. You got to face what happened to you head on, and just got to deal with it, the feeling of it. And I think that's where it hit me, when I was in the hospital, when mum and dad was in there, and I was like, and they told me I actually had 3 spinal fractures. Because in my head, like the blood clot, I was like, yeah, blood clot. But to me, the spinal fractures were worse, even though they weren't. I was just like, 3 spinal, like, am I going to be able to, like, just scared to go to bed? Am I going to be able to wake up? They weren't displaced, so I was very lucky. But I just go to bed every night, just like, I hope I can move everything in the morning. Like, you just get in your own head at that point. So that's when I probably realized that when I got told about the spinal fractures.
Did it change your perspective on life? Because basically your life kind of flashed before your fucking eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. If it wasn't for that crash, I wouldn't be here now. Like, I know it's cliche to say, oh, I'm so happy that happened. I'm glad I got 2 blood clots in this spine, because I'm over it now. So when you're in the midst of it, you can't imagine being out of it. But when you're on top of that mountain, you're looking down, you're like, oh crap, like that did me well. So yeah, I'm very, very very grateful it happened, really, to be honest, because if it wasn't for that crash, my perspective, I wouldn't have had any perspective other than what I was already doing, which was work, party on weekends, work, party on the weekends. I had no greater perspective of anything really. And that sort of gives you that, it gives you a deeper connection with live every day like it's your last. I know it's very cliche, but it builds in something where it's like, I should rest today. Like after the walk, the 4 days after the walk and the day after the gastro I went and climbed a mountain because I can't put my head on the pillow at night unless I've like done 4 hours of training that day or something hard. So it did build a very deep connection with, all right, you got to get a move on now. Once you have a flash like that, it gives you a sense of urgency to chase your dream, to chase your purpose, your why, whatnot. And some people's moment like I had might not happen until they're 40. Mine happened to happen when I was 20, 22 or 23. So I was lucky that happened, but some people might not be till 40. It's just when it is, and it's just your perspective on the whole thing, really. The whole thing about life is just perspective. It can change your view of the world regardless of the circumstances in front of you. It can just change your whole view on the circumstances. So yeah, it definitely changed a lot, to say the least, that crash.
Yeah, it's crazy how it takes a near-death experience to change your perspective and change your path in life. Like before you're on like a totally different path. You have a near-death experience, you're like, holy fuck, I need to get my shit together now. And you just fully change. And
100%.
it's sad in a way that it takes something like that to make someone change their mind too.
100%. It's just like when it comes to things like mental health, it sometimes takes you being at rock bottom to the point where you're on your knees, where the only way to look is up. And it's sad, it's bad, it's horrible that people have to get to that point to realize. But it's like that as well. You can just be at rock bottom, and then you've got to get there to realize that I can go up, sort of thing. And I sort of related to that. I related to everything I do is related to just the mind and how it works, and just the demon that you got up there talking. And yeah, like you said, you're spot on there.
During that time, did you have any like mental struggles like depression and stuff like that due to, you having the accident, which could lead to like self-doubt and like, what the fuck am I doing in my life? Did you have any of those thoughts or downtimes?
Yeah, well, the year before I had the crash where I had the ankle reconstruction and the blood clot in the leg, I was seeing a girl overseas in Ireland, and we were together. And then I booked a ticket when I had the blood clot to fly over there, and then that ended that afternoon before I said I'd booked a surprise ticket. So I was on my bed with blood clot, with my ankle recon, just with my four walls after something like that happening. And all you do is you go in your head. And it wasn't until a month later that I read David Goggins' book, changed my life. That book
Great book, eh?
changed my life. Listening to the audiobook of him talking about after each chapter it just hit me different. I started walking everywhere. It was just the mindset shift. I haven't touched a drink or anything since May of 2019. One day I just went, I don't want to get to the end of my journey. Like he says, I don't want to get to the end of my journey and not realize, and not have done what I was capable of doing, and started too late. So that was the biggest thing that sort of got me. But I was in such a, and that's why I like talking about it now, because I was in such a hole when I had that blood clot for that month, where I was just the partying, the drinking, all that sort of stuff, and then just in your head with the four walls after a breakup and those things, and then no one around you, because a lot of my closest friends are in Ireland, so I don't have as much of a support group here. So I just go within, and then luckily I came across the book a month later, and that changed everything. That just made me have a new relationship with suffering. Although people like cringe at the word suffering, like it's a bad thing, I look at it as a good thing. So I built a relationship with suffering after that, to the point where I just spent the 2 years by myself, just in my own head. Didn't go out socially. Haven't been out socially since 2019, since May, I think it was. And it was just go inside and really start the journey of talking to that demon and finding who I truly am, not just going inside and talking to it, but finding answers for it. That was the biggest thing. So if it wasn't for that book, shit wouldn't have changed. So sometimes it takes going out, and you have to hear it from, and then after that, obviously, I would just spend every day having 4 hours of David Goggins in my ear from YouTube, or other people from YouTube, Steve Harvey, and just things. Because it's hard to have negative thoughts when you're having all this good stuff coming in your ears, and it's giving you light and a bit of a vision while you're just listening to it. And I listened to that before bed when I wake up for over a year straight. And I still do it now. I still listen to Taking Souls on repeat when I'm training. So that's I mean, I got it here on my hand as well, taking souls. So that was my way out per se.
Yeah, I got a mate who I went on his phone once and he had that same YouTube video of taking souls on replay. I was like, bro, what kind of fucking training are you doing to be listening to that on replay? It's like,
Just on repeat. That's what I did for the walk. I just had it on repeat. I had that there was the fourth day. I had that on repeat from kilometer 10 to the end. I did not, and that was 47 kilometers that day. I did not stop listening to it. It's just over and over. You just think you're a savage every split second of the moment, and it's very powerful having things come in your ear, because when you don't have things come in your ear and you're left in your own head, sometimes you have only the memories of the past, and sometimes they're not too good. So you've got to visualize that future. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so important to fill your head with like positive stuff to keep you going. And like for the listeners and anyone else, like at times you may not have friends or family that will be there for you, or they may be there, but they're not positive. They can be toxic at times. So it's good to have books and podcasts and audiobooks and all that kind of stuff, because you can surround yourself with that and you can like listen to it, and what you surround yourself with, like you attract as well. And like the saying is, you are the average of your five closest friends. Now, your five closest friends don't have to be physical. They could be books and podcasts and stuff, because you can get so much from it.
That's a very good. That's a very good way of putting it. I've actually never thought of it like that, and that is a very good way of putting it. So you just shifted my perspective there on something, because that's just there. I've never actually thought of it like that. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is very true, because you have. I learned through the journey they all want to be there at the start and the end. I had a hiccup a week in where I didn't feel like my best friend was supporting me as I would support someone in my position. And he said something to me like, I haven't made the time for you, because I don't think what you're doing is that impressive, because James Lawrence has done more, which just comes back to James Lawrence's point of everyone's heart's different. So in the midst of that happened, and then you really find out who the real ones are, and who wants to be there at the start and the end and not in the middle, and who wants to be there for the whole way. That was the biggest thing I sort of took away from it. Absolutely, as well.
Yeah, people are just clout chasers. They want to be there for the glory, but they don't want to be there for the tough times, man.
Absolutely. The business partners, a lot of them, it's all for when you're doing good. It's like on the socials, when I had that first week and I was posting everything, I go from having 300, 400 views on my story to 1,700, but that's only when you're suffering. And then I couldn't post that other weeks, because when I would sit there and think about the caption, when I would write the caption, I would get anxious. I'd make cave to that feeling that I was writing more. So it became such a mind game that I couldn't even tell Instagram how I felt. And then as that goes on, it got on to a point where I was like, I don't care about Instagram marketing, nothing. I just want to get the day done. Whereas the first week I was posting everything, and everyone's engaged. But then when they think you're doing good, everyone thought I was doing the best when I was doing the worst. And then people don't care. People want to see you suffering. People want to see you do bad. And you've got to feed off that. You've got to use that energy wisely, or it can bring you down. So it's up to you, perspective on it, to use it wisely.
Yeah, I was following it and I was like, fuck, this guy is in pain. Especially after like the second day, you could barely walk. I was like, fucking hell, this is going to be a long 50 days, bro.
Newborn Gazelle. I got a few nicknames. Newborn Gazelle. What was it? A couple of them. Walking down the amount of the eyes I got walking down the beach, because I'd walk down the beach like that, and the beach here, the Esplanade, is very busy, and I'd just walk up and down it like looking like that for the first week. I think that was the worst. Just like, everyone's looking at me, whatever, and that would help me stay in the moment as well. So it's all these little tricks and mind games, but yeah, that first week was interesting to say the least. I didn't know what I was in for.
Did you have any thoughts of, fuck me, what have I got myself into?
I thought of quitting every second of every day.
Yeah.
Like, there was not one point where I was like, no, I'm not. There was points when I was at 38 kilometers where I'm like, I'm not quitting now. I'm always at 42. It's such a mind game for me, because I'm naturally weak-minded. Like, I am weak-minded. I realized that the week after, when I went and did that mountain, I wanted to tap out halfway up of it. And that was the thing with it. I just had to sort of learn to just like James Lawrence says, you just black out. You just go. You're not even here. You're not even on this earth. And that was the place that I sort of had to go for it. But that I can't even explain the pain. I can't even fathom it. I can't even fathom being back in that pain now, let alone even an hour after I'd finished today. I couldn't even fathom being back in. I was like, is that real? That's that was, yeah. There was one day on day 35 that I had gone the deepest into the mind. But this is where I sort of freaked myself out. I was at kilometer 7 walking around a golf course, and I was in so much discomfort. I couldn't even have fathomed being in that discomfort ever in my life, that I imagined there was a car driving behind on the highway, had a camera on the car, and it was just seeing everything in front of it. Saw me walking, doesn't hit me, just sees me walking on the camera. I bring a golf ball from home and I pretend like I got smacked in the head from a golf ball, throw the golf ball on the ground. So when someone stops, they see the golf ball and go, oh, he actually got hit in the head by a golf ball. He can go to hospital. And that's a good, valid excuse for getting out of the walk. And that was at kilometer 7, mind you. And I had to give myself enough energy in the moment to take one more step. So I got too far gone to not finish the day. That was the day that was like day 4. And that day was, I was just wanted to quit every set. It was horrible. And you have to give yourself enough energy in that moment to get so far. That's too, like, I got to 38 kilometers. I'm like, oh, 42 is in sight. That was a day. I don't think I've ever gone that deep in my mind of wanting to and having to talk myself back out of that. Because that was pretty much at the point of, yeah, bowing my knees down. I want to stop now. And then you've got to just got to talk to it. Just got to talk to that demon all day long.
It's how the mind is so powerful, dude. Like, the body can do anything. It's your mind that always fucking stops you.
100%. 100%. That's even when it comes to the day 45. I take it on the chin. I chose to stop on that day because of something more so out of my control, with literally not being able to. And the good thing is I didn't want to stop and then the next day I'd be fine. That's what I was scared of. But I stopped on the Sunday and I had the diarrhea and the gastro till Friday. So that's where I was sort of like, that was a wise decision. But yeah, it's just choices you make in those split second moments that are the most important.
How did you say it was 30 something days for the body to like start to adapt?
Yeah, 39. See, I had glimpses of I'm adapted for like a day and a half. And so it got to I don't know what day it was. So my quad's still numb now. My quad's been numb since day 19. I have not been able to feel my quad. And I think it got to day like 15 to 20 where I felt all right. And I was like, I wrote a caption on Instagram where it said, I'm craving a setback. The next day, both of my shins exploded and the muscle on my right shin started tearing off the bone. And that was where I was like, oh, well, shit, I'm not at the adaptation phase. And that went on from day 23, badly from day 23 to, that was when I was trying to walk and like skipping and just along the bike track, couldn't even walk, had to relearn to walk again. And that was from day 23. Yeah, it was 23, not 24, 23 to 39, all the way to 39. And then day 40 to 41, 40 to 42, I ran 2 days in a row, 5 hours. And I felt the best. So I adapted at day 40 and I felt good from then onwards. Physically, obviously not stomach wise and that, but that first 40 days, yeah, I was blown by. I was like, I'm not going to adapt to this because I didn't get to train for it. That's what people don't understand too. I didn't train for this. I couldn't walk for 3 days the week before because I went for a barefoot run to get my heart rate up for the last time the week before, and I just developed really bad plantar fasciitis on my foot. I couldn't walk for 3 days the week before I started this. I couldn't even step on my foot. And then I had a month and a half I did about 4 35-kilometer walks. And then when I started this event, I had not walked more than 35 kilometers in my life. And I couldn't even walk for 3 days that week before. And I had 2 days of being able to walk before I started. So that was just, to me, that's why I'm so, all right, it was stubborn in assuming that I would adapt sooner. I went into it with no experience, nothing at all. I went from the bike using your quads and your calves more than anything to using my hamstrings to pull myself, and my feet were horrible. So it's just a big flip on its head, and that's why I think it was so mental and not physical, because I just did not train for it. Not that I had the opportunity to either, but I just said I don't want to postpone this. I said I was going to do something this day. I've got to do it.
Yeah, and it comes back to the mind, and I can resonate with that. Like, I haven't done something at your level, but I did a marathon without any training. So the most I did was like 5Ks, and then I went straight into a marathon. And I tell everyone, like, yeah, you need some sort of base level of fitness, but it's all mental. Honestly, all mental.
100%. And you don't realize it until you're in those moments where you push past where you thought that you couldn't. And that's what people don't. Yeah, that's about people like us trying to get people to do that. And then once they get to the other side of it, they're like, well, they start growing on what they could do and what they can now keep going instead of being stopped at that one point. But even this is the thing that I go off with James Lawrence too. I realize this through this. Everyone's heart is different. I feel in me, I have the potential to be able to do 100 days of something. I can't say that because I haven't done it or tried it. So I can't say that. I just feel like I do have the potential to. But I realize through this, wanting to do that is a whole nother ball game. And wanting to do it, like everyone's heart's different. Someone doing a marathon could be as hard as me doing these 44 days because I've had 2 years to be in my head. So maybe being in my head's easier for me than them being, maybe me being in my head for 44 days straight is easier than them being in their head for 4 hours. Because I've learned to deal with it more. And everyone's heart's different, everyone's situation's different. And that's why you cannot judge yourself of someone else's situation because yours is just different. It's just different, but we want to attach it to someone else's because it makes us feel better. But you can't do that. It just halts you.
Yeah, and it's just like when it comes to mental health or anything like that, like everyone's pain is different as well. Yeah, we compare ourselves like if you go, I have depression, you go, oh yeah, me too, it's all sweet. But my depression could be in a whole different level to yours. My anxiety could be a whole different level. So we shouldn't be comparing because everyone's pain or everyone's experiences is on a whole new level.
Like you said, it's just talking from experience. There's our perception of, oh, my anxiety is this bad. So I'm assuming that yours couldn't be any worse because I already think mine's the worst because I had, like, even when someone's isn't bad, it's still bad for them. So they think, oh, yours can't be worse because, like you said, your pain's different. People see it different. So someone else's could be harder, but you just can't imagine it. People just can't imagine theirs being harder. So they want to enforce that on theirs so they know that people know that theirs is hard instead of going in and just dealing with it. Like you said at the start, crouch is people want people like attention. They like staying in certain positions as well because they like attention, even if they don't think they're not in a good space. But people stay in it. They unconsciously stay in it, and it just becomes a cycle until one day you snap out of it or something. It really does take something. It really does take a lot of people to get into that rock bottom, to realize that there is a way out because there's no other way but out now.
Yeah, and it's sad that it does take that. And on the, I guess, people attaching themselves to different, attaching themselves to people who are going through the same stuff. Like I see these mental health groups and all they post is like negative and suffering stuff about depression, anxiety, and they're like, oh yeah, me too, trying to make themselves feel better. And they just stay there when like talking on podcasts like this and other podcasts and pages where we're speaking about these kind of things, but we're also sharing, hey, like there's a way out. You don't have to just stay in this suffering mode because we choose to suffer.
Yeah, 100. It's like my walk. I chose to suffer. It's
Mm.
like a lot of like. It's different than saying you're born with cancer. You've got something like that where your suffering's out of your control. But a lot of the time, for most majority, it's not out of your control. It's just we think it's out of our control. And it's hard to listen. Like I do find, say if someone is depressed and they're in a really bad hole, and say they see me or someone else who's out of it now, they can't imagine that you were ever in it as bad as you say you are or as bad as they are because you're out of it, and they can't imagine them being out of it. So they just refuse almost to relate to it and to listen sometimes and go, I can get out of it. But that's why I like giving it to people straight. There's no easy, like when you're getting out of a hole, like there's no easy way. There's no beating around the bush. There's no easy way of it. You just got to do it. And it's just it's people say it's not that simple. It is that simple. And then a lot of people say also like it's easier said than done. True, but it's also easier done than you say as well. There's two ways to it. There's both. And I think just people get too caught up in it's just the victim's mentality. And I've had it before. I've had it my whole life. I had it. Everyone, like we all have it now and then. We all go into these holes, but you've got to be honest with yourself. It just comes down to accountability. Accountability is number one.
That's it. Yeah. It's human nature to, blame other people and stuff like that because it's the easy way out. We don't have to take accountability. We don't have to put pressure on ourselves. But like just by us chatting, yeah, it's good. We're spreading awareness. We're sharing real stories and stuff, and people may see that and get inspired. Like, hey, like I'm in a dark spot right now. I can get out. But at the end of the day, we can do these podcasts. We can give them all the tools that they need, but they have to find that inner strength to dig themselves out.
100%. 100%. That, and just making sure you don't put a label on people. I'm insecure as fuck. I'm insecure. About going on a podcast now about being on camera talking, like I'm insecure about it. I'm like, oh shit. When I posted my announcement for the walk, I didn't watch the trailer because I just didn't want to look at what I looked like and how I spoke and everything. That's how insecure I am with those things. And that was my way of getting over that insecurity, was shaving my head, shaving my beard, put my face on the camera, put it out there before I can delete it or choose to delete it. And it's out there. I got to deal with it now head on. But it's things you can't put a label on people. Once you if I put a label on David Goggins, I would never think that I could have been anything like him or done anything like this endurance. And I find that that's the first thing people go to, is putting a label on you because it makes them feel better. And it's just about detaching that, because no one's special. It's just something you have to detach from, or you put everyone on a pedestal and you'll never put yourself up on a pedestal.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone goes through shit, whether that be anxiety, mental health. Like, we all have it, we all experience it. Just fucking learn to be self-aware about it. And yeah, just stop comparing yourself to other people, because it's so true. Like, we all go through shit in life, and that's totally fine. But I've lost track of what I was going to say then.
But it happened to you before me.
Yeah. I was going to bring up the insecurity shit. Sorry. Yeah, well, like, I can relate to the insecure stuff, but you just got to put stuff out there. Like, I used to record podcasts, and I would have to rewatch it and see what I look like, see what I said was right. And like, so many times I would have to delete it and repost it. Now I just fucking record it and put it out there because I don't care anymore. And by me just being authentic, being vulnerable, people can see that. But people can also cut through the shit when you're being fake.
Yeah, 100%. And that vulnerable, that's the biggest key. That is the biggest key, is being vulnerable. And people can see through fake. You see it on Instagram all the time. People's profiles and all that. They can see through it themselves, but they just refuse to stop. It's just what they're used to. It's just what's comfortable. But it's just, you have to be honest with yourself. You have to tell it to yourself straight. That's the only way you're going to. So like, back in a little story, back in school, I got labelled by the teachers having a learning disability. And I went along with it, obviously, thinking, I had a learning disability, this and that. I got out of it. It was only last year that I sort of realised that it wasn't a learning disability. I had fucking shit work ethic, and it was me refusing to believe that. I had bad work ethic. I didn't want to put the time into doing maths, to doing English. And that was on me. That's not me having a learning disability. It's me choosing not to have the work ethic to do it. Whether it takes me 6 months and takes someone else 6 days, doesn't matter. I still chose to not have that work ethic for the 6 months. And they're the big. It's hard to be honest with yourself for those things like that, because it's sort of an excuse, like, oh no, that's why I did bad at school, that's why I did this. But you just got to be honest, like, nah, I had a horrible work ethic. And I had that my whole life. I had a horrible work ethic. I was very good at it, but I had a horrible work ethic. And you've just got to tell it to yourself straight. It's the only way you're going to get it. Because someone else can tell it to you straight, and you'll take it in such a way. But when you tell it to yourself, you can only take it one way.
So you're one of those guys that had all the talent but didn't want to work hard, eh?
Yeah, 100%. I especially when it comes to athletics and running, that was like between 100 and 400. I mean, my first session there, I was keeping up with their fastest, but it was things like, when I get told I'm going there, I'm doing 200 repeats 16 times with the walk back recovery. I'm like, I know that lactic acid feeling when you feel sick. I had such a bad attachment to stomach cramps when I was younger, and just such a bad attachment with like feeling sick, that I never wanted to. And obviously you do that when you have these hard sessions. And I would try and get away with it. Like game day, I love game day. I love it all. And I put everything in on game. When it's competition, everything. But then when it came to the training, I still put it in. I still do it. But I still find ways out, like injuries. I'll be like, my hamstring hurts or my calf hurts. And a lot of the time that was just me being weak-minded. And that was me just not being asked. But now I've realized that is a whole other ballgame. That's why I went and did the 44 days. To see if I was really that person that I thought I could be, because I was always that person.
What did you learn about yourself most during those 44 days?
It's funny you asked that. I I'm out, like when I came out of this side of it, I feel like I did before. I feel normal. I feel like I didn't do anything. This is one thing I want to get across to people. I don't feel like I did anything special. I don't feel like I'm anything special. I'm like anyone else. They can go and do something like this. Obviously, wanting to do this is different, but you have it in you to battle your mind like I battled it, whether it's in any genre of it. Doesn't have to be endurance sports. It could be anything, just something you're uncomfortable with. And that, oh shit, I've lost track now. You got me there. Well, what was the question?
What did you learn about yourself?
Oh, yeah. God, the short-term memory, Jesus. I think the biggest thing I learned was I am the person I said I was the last 2 years since listening to David Goggins, and who I really, because I do all my trainings, I go out for long trail runs with this, and you can do hard 20Ks and that sort of stuff, but doing something for 44 days straight is a whole nother ball game. And that was just something that I found out what I knew before, but I'm the type of person now that you can't say you're something unless you go and do it. Like you can't, unless you've trialed and errored or failed or done it, you can't say. So the fact that I didn't stop on day 4, it took me 3 hours to leave the house and put my shoes on, because I couldn't deal with the pain. I was just like, I just can't do this anymore. Like I just can't do it. And you've got to slap mediocre in the head and get out the door. And it's just about getting out the door and going. So I just found out I was that motherfucker I thought I was, that savage in my head. And I just found out also that not so much what I found out about me, but I found out about other people, that I'm no different than anyone else. So they can go and do something like this. It wasn't really, I sort of found myself before I started this. And that was a key to my 2 years, sort of just staying by myself, no sociality and all that sort of stuff, was I really found myself in who I was to a deep core that I sort of know now. And that just sort of reassured me. It reassured me that I can fight that demon like I thought I could, but I just had to put it in practice.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned like finding your identity and who you are. If you were to quickly explain it, who is Cain Rice?
That's a great question. That's a great question. Kane, that's a great question. I'm gonna go and say, oh man, that's a deep question. God, I'm someone who is Cain Rice? Man, I'm still on that journey to find that. You just made me realize that. Like it's that you think you know, like you know all these things, and then you think about it. Who am I? And it's like, fuck, who am I? Like,
yeah, it's different when someone asks you, hey.
Yeah, I sort of realized there on the spot, I thought I was on that, like, I'm still on that journey, obviously, forever, but you sort of realize you have a bearing on it. And then you get asked something like that and you really go deep it and you don't have an answer for it. Like, I genuinely don't have an answer for who is Cain Rice. And I think that just showed me that I don't know who I am yet. And I think that's why I'm on this path, because I'm still going to find out who I am. God, you got me there, brother.
Ooh, it's all good. I'll let you keep thinking about that. And if you come up with something, jump back in. But with your walk, what were some of the good times or some of the funny times? I seen someone, you fell asleep in a public toilet or something.
Yeah. To be honest with you, there was no good times. Like, if I'm brutally honest, there was no good times. Like, because I just knew I'd get up the next day and I just didn't want to do it. Like, there was no good times. Like, I just didn't feel that. Yeah, I fell asleep. That was the first week. I was at West Beach, just at one of the beaches down there, and I was just in the toilet and I just fell asleep. I woke up like, I don't know how, it wasn't for long. And then I woke up and I was like crap. And the night before was the first night I fell into sleep paralysis. And that was probably one of the scariest things that's ever happened to me. I was trying to go to bed, and then I just felt like I was sinking, and then I felt like I had 100 kilo weight on me. I couldn't move my arms, and I was trying to, and then I was trying to scream for mum, and I couldn't talk or anything. And the more I fight it, the more I wouldn't be able to move. Came out of it, didn't sleep for the next 4 nights. 4 nights straight I didn't sleep for. Coming out of that, I slept for an average of 3.5 hours per night for the whole thing. And I fell into sleep paralysis every second night, third night. And I think that just caused me to the first week I was tired. Other than the first week, I didn't have a single day I was tired. I had energy the whole day. I had pain obviously, but I just had energy. Like, there was no point in the days where I was like, I'm getting tired now, other than that first week where I fell asleep on the toilet. That was more so me sitting on the toilet and falling asleep because I couldn't be getting up and moving because I didn't want to do this shit anymore. And that was my reason for sitting on the toilet. And then when you wake up, you're like, fuck, I could have done an extra kilometer. God damn. And then it's just that mind. If you give into the mind, then you give back out, then you give back in, then you got to put yourself back out. And it was just that. But that falling asleep and thought that was weird. Till someone knocked on the thing, obviously, but snap back into it real quick.
That's fucking funny, bro.
He
And
must have thought something crazy because I got off that toilet I got out that door quicker than he could have done 5 knocks. So he must have been thinking, what were you doing in there?
fucking hell. Was there any moments when was there any people that came up to you and had some deep chats and like really asked you what you're doing and why you were doing it?
Yeah, well, obviously I went into it I unfortunately, my own fault, went into it with a lot of a baseline expectation of what the community might get involved with something like this. I mean, not other than ABC, not one news channel jumped on this. Not one news channel did anything, which is mind blowing for me, to be honest. And it was even like, I thought I'd have people walking to me every day. For the most part, I was by myself. There was 2 people, Levi and Taylor, who I appreciate. I'm grateful for every day that I wake up, because they were with me for spurts of most days on the second half. And Levi came out, one of the guys, I didn't know him before, just messaged me off Instagram. I knew his brother, and he came out and he walked with me from, I think, like the 4th day or something, when I was in pain, just for the first half an hour in the morning. And we built an unbelievable friendship. And those were 2 people that were with me throughout the whole thing. Other than that, the first week I had people join me if they saw me out. And that was lovely. Like, that would make me feel unbelievable. I love that. And then other than that, as it got on, it was just me by myself. Every single day it was me getting in the car with Dad going home. I didn't have a single day where I had someone clap, someone say well done, anything. I thought it on day 25, at least halfway point, the sponsors would come down and have people clap, like just a moral booster for the next half. I get a call 2 hours before I was finished. We have too much work, can't come down. I was just like, that's when I realized, like, you're in it by yourself. No one gives a shit about you. And no one cares. So just keep working. And that was the point that I realized, like, obsession is lonely. Like, obsession is lonely. Like, I knew it before, but this was just a deeper part of, like, where you realize no one's gonna be clapping for you, no matter what. If you do these great things, you just gotta get yourself up. It was me that got up every morning, my alarm. It was me that came home, got in the car every single night with no reason to get up the next morning. And that's why you have to have a reason greater than yourself to get up that next morning and go again. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't be getting up. And that was, yeah, it was. I had people come up to me and that sort of stuff, and I had a couple of people come up and donate and all these things, and it was amazing. When people come up to me, look, it's amazing. It makes me feel unbelievable, and it helps take my mind off the pain. But it wasn't to the level that I expected going in, so I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't ready to be alone for as long as I was. That's the way the cookie crumbles. Merry Christmas, Kane. And I think it did me the world of good as well. Now that I'm over it, like I say, in the midst of it, you're like, shit, this sucks. I want people to talk to, walk with. But now that I'm over it, I just have so much more time to talk to myself.
It's a good reality check, because you do realize, like, yeah, people may support you, but at the end of the day, they got their own fucking lives to worry about. You just got to focus on your life.
100%. And you have to, if they say they're going to do something, you've just got to trust that you can deal with them not doing what they say they're going to do. It's like when you don't trust that someone's going to break your heart, you trust that you can deal with it after. And that's the same with this. You trust that they're going to be honest and do what they follow through with what they say they're going to do. Like, support you in certain ways if they say it. And then when they don't, you have to let it go. You can't, like you say, you just have to be right with yourself and just hope that they pull through with what they say. And if they don't, then can't let it phase you in any way, shape or form.
Yeah. And
I think I used a lot of that energy towards the savageness of this, and just like, I just went in my head like, fuck everyone. Like, I just went savage in my head, and that's what sort of got me through. You just put that energy into a certain place.
yeah, it builds that fucking resilience as well, eh?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. It's like an ice bath. It never gets easier or funner or better. You just get better at dealing with it, because you know from experience. That was the biggest thing from this whole thing. Was the 2 lessons I learned were, you can fail every day, you still have to get up the next day and go again. And you don't get better at these things. You just get better at dealing with them from the more experience you have. And that's why I made the second half look so fine, because I just refused to show it.
And that can be relatable to anything in life.
Especially the mental health. My whole 44 days just relates to mental health, because it's all about going in there. it's all about talking to that demon and just realize, once you realize others others are going through, people don't think others can understand them unless but if you're willing to sit yourself down and open yourself up like a book and allow someone to understand you, they can. But you've just got to be vulnerable enough to allow that to happen.
Yeah, and that's why I'm grateful for you jumping on here today and, you know, opening up and being vulnerable, because I know a lot of listeners are going to get tons of value from it.
Yeah, 100%. That's it. Being vulnerable. You have to obviously, vulnerability comes from a lot of self-confidence as well. And self-confidence comes from keeping promises to yourself. I think that's one of the biggest things, keeping promises to yourself, because that builds self-confidence. Because when you don't keep promises to yourself, then you allow yourself to get away with it. And that just makes for a bad time.
Yeah. And what was your reason? Because you were raising money. Was it Smith family you raised money for?
Yeah, for the disadvantaged kids. So I think we end up getting 18 to 20 kids, 4 years of school. So yeah, I was doing it for those kids. I mean, the people always ask, it's a good reason you're doing it for. I'm like, at the end of it, like when it all comes down to it, I'm doing it for the charity, but I'm doing it for myself as much as anything else. And you can't beat around the bush and say, I'm doing this all for charity. I'm doing this all, like, I'm doing it for charity. I'm also doing it for myself. And that was a big thing. But the whole why behind it was to show these kids that are in disadvantaged situations, that don't think they can be in a situation of advantage when looking at other people in advantage, when they're not, that you have a way out. Like you can. So you can believe your craziest dream. Don't care what your parents say. Don't care what your teachers say. You don't have to know what you're going to do out of school. If you get out of school, you don't know what you're going to do, don't worry. But it was mainly just showing people what these kids, you can chase your dreams, listen to other people. Like don't, like no matter how crazy it is, no matter if your parents want to disown you, chuck you out, your teachers think you're a crappy student, anything, like don't. Because like Logan Paul said one time, it's very cliche, but it's so true. If you just refuse to stop, it's very hard to stop you. 40 years, 60 years, 7 years, it's very hard to stop you if you just don't stop. And it will get, if you just don't stop, you'll get there at one point.
That's it, bro. It's just about turning up every fucking day and putting in that work, and you'll be surprised on how much you can achieve.
Yeah, the grind. It's just the grind. And it's just having a vision for that future so you're not left with the memories of the past.
Yeah. And so on day 40, 44, whatever, and you had gastro, did you think to just have a day off and see how it went and then continue going? Or you just feel like, nah, I need to pull the pin?
No, it wasn't even that, because obviously when I started this, the sponsors and everyone wanted it to be like the title of it, 3,050 days.
Yeah.
But my whole goal behind it was 60 kilometers every day. I just wanted the everyday thing. It wasn't like I could do 10 kilometers now, 50 kilometers tomorrow, 40 then. It was an everyday thing at the same amount. And I set 60 because I didn't think it was, I did not know if I could do it. And that's why I said, I didn't want to set like a marathon because other people have done it. Obviously I ended up having to do that, but I didn't want to set something that I know I could do. I set something that I had no idea. People call me crazy, and I was like, all right, now I've got the right goal to go for. And then it was, what was it? I've lost track again. God damn.
All good, bro. But yeah, I love that you did set that goal so high, because, bro, the saying's so true. Like, aim for the fucking stars, and even if you land in the clouds, like,
you're higher than you were before.
Exactly. And like, if your goals don't scare you, like, they're not big enough.
No, 100%, 100%. And that was like what went through. Oh, there we go. What went through my head on day like 44. It was because the week before that, when my shin was so bad, like I was in, right, like no one thought my shin was going to get better. My two ankles exploded, my knees exploded, my shin exploded. Like no one thought it was going to get better, and I just had that hope. I'll get it. Like it will adapt. And it was that Friday. I had diarrhea bad. Did the whole marathon. Didn't finish till 8:30 in the night. Pardon me. Started at 7 a.m. Had breaks. Like had that many breaks throughout the day that it took me that long to complete it. Obviously, I was walking that whole time. Sad day, happened again. Bad. And you have to drink. You have to hydrate yourself. But to hydrate yourself, it's going to make you go more. And that was just a mix for bad. And I dealt with that Saturday. And then Sunday was the day we were thinking of trying to get mum to get an adult diaper. Because I couldn't even go to the toilet. It hurt so much to go to the toilet. Like I could not. It was like sandpaper walking. And then Monday came. Monday or Sunday. I could not tell you what day it was to stop. Monday or Sunday. I have no recollection of most days. And I got up in the morning, got ready and everything, and went to leave twice. but I was just like, it was, I can't even explain it without being too disgusting. Like it was just non-stop. Like that steak I ate the night before was 2 hours gone and it's through me. And it was, I couldn't hold anything in. It was more of a, I can't walk this in the time frame because I have to walk back to the toilet every 2 seconds. So it was sort of like, what do I do? And then I spoke to, obviously, someone you know as well, to Bradley, who has a lot of talk, the other podcasts, a lot to talk about. And I spoke with him in the morning and he just changed my perspective on a lot of things. So a lot of why I didn't want to stop a lot of the time was because I care what other people think. But I found out on that day 44 after talking to him and really, really opened my eyes that I found out who I was through those times I wanted to stop. And this is a time where I didn't want to stop. Like I didn't want to stop. I would have stopped on the Friday when I first had it if I wanted to. And because I felt the best, my body felt good. I had plans to run the last day and hopefully under 4 hours. I was even thinking under 3.5. And then I just couldn't. It just got too frustrating. It was just not even too frustrating. It was just I couldn't. Like it was just one of those. I made the decision to stop. I will never say that I had to stop. I didn't have to stop. I could have walked and shut my pants for the whole day. Absolutely, I could have done that. But I wouldn't have had the nutrition. My stomach, my digestive system was shutting down. I was in fight or flight. My blood was in my muscle. Everything was just, my whole body was in cuckoo land. And so, yeah, that was sort of the end of it. Because I wasn't, the week before they wanted me to have day off as well and do maybe the walk in a pool or just walk in the pool for 8 hours, even though you're not going to walk that far. And there was all these things, maybe 36-hour rest from my physios. They all wanted me 36-hour rest for my shin. And I was just like, no, it defeats the purpose. The purpose is to get up and go, even when your body's at the worst. Like I don't want my body, I want it to recover, but I don't. Like I want to give it the time. And if I had a day off, I said to myself, if I was to have a day off, it defeats the whole purpose. And if I was to have a day off, that was the end of it. That was the end of it. And I wanted to do that on day 4. So day 44 was, I definitely surprised myself. But yeah, that gastro was just not good. I've never had it like that before in my life either. And I think it was additionally everything that was on top of it, like fight or flight mode. So I was under too much stress to digest, and my gut was under way too much stress to digest properly. My bowel movements were not what they needed to be any other day. And because I went into it so like routine, strict, with bowel movements and just everything. And then when this came around, it was just boom. So that sort of happened. And then it was, well, shit, here we are now, day 44. And then I put that post out and it was, yeah, but I can the reason why I can live with it is because I didn't stop when I wanted to. Like I felt good. When I stopped, I felt good. Like my legs felt unbelievable. But yeah, that was it. That was a tricky one. That was weird. I mean, I had people tell me to pull out in week 1, let alone day 44. So yeah, it was just one of those.
I feel sorry for whoever had to clean the toilet. I bet you it was your mum.
Nah, I used a lot of public toilets.
Okay.
So the Sunday, actually, so I went to the toilet 9 times. No, it was pretty water, mate. That's going down. You don't need to clean it. It was the last day I went to the toilet 9 times between, 9 times in an hour before I left the house. I went 4 times between Plimpton and Glenelg, which is my house and the beach, which is about 5 kilometers. I went 4 times into Macca's twice, and then a footy club, and then another toilet. And then between that and kilometer 18, I had gone like 18 times just in the day after I left home. It was ridiculous. And yeah, that was just, I feel sorry for the public toilets, if anything. But I think when you go on a public toilet for that long, you're bound to pick up a bug or something. They were disgusting. Every day they were disgusting. Didn't have any choice though. So, and especially with the pinched nerve I have my abdominal from the tear, I have to go. Or if I clog up my gut, it just pinches, constantly pinches. So it's a big catch-22. The whole thing was a catch-22, but that last stopping was a big catch-22. Just the water, but then if I drink, I have to go. It was just mayhem.
Yeah, I couldn't fathom doing that with gastro. Like I've had gastro before and I wasn't doing anything like what you were doing. It was fucked. So I can't imagine what it would be like for you.
Yeah, that was out of everything that went wrong, like the shin, the muscles ripping off, like the day 3 where I walked with heat packs with duct tape to the back of my knees was just, it was gastro that got me. And I hate gastro. I've had it once before and I think it's the worst of the worst. And then when I got it, I was like, no, surely not. I didn't eat a single packaged food the whole walk. I was so good. I didn't eat a single thing that was bad. Not a single thing that was bad for my gut. I probably ate things that were my gut probably built up an intolerance for from having it every day. But other than that, so when it happened, I was a bit in denial the first 2 days. Like, it'll pass. Everyone was saying 48 hours. Got to 3 days later, I was like, I don't know what's going on. So that was, yeah. Then day 44 was I decided to call it, which, I mean, it didn't go to plan from day one. So it's not like I did 60 every day and then I cut it. I did more than I even thought like I'd do it week one. But that just comes back around to 2024 when I try and right the wrong. Not walking though. I'm gonna go for, if everything goes to plan, 2024, I'll attempt half Ironman every day for 50 days. Just to right the wrong of, not that it's not anywhere near what Iron Cowboy did. But that's what I realized. Everyone's heart is different. I just want to right the wrong of what I set out at the start, sticking exactly to that and not veering off one time. And that's just why I want to get to the start to the finish, exactly what I said I'd do. I can sleep easy after that.
Yeah, well, what you did anyway is still a massive achievement. Like, I know we said, anyone can do it, but the thing is, not everyone will do it. So it is a massive achievement. 44 days, I think it was 1,800 kilometers, 34 marathons back to back, dude. Like, you should be proud of yourself, but proud but never satisfied, eh?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. There's no finish line. There's never a finish line. That's why 4 days after I finished the walk, I went and climbed Mount Lofty here, which is a climb, and that was a day after the gastro. I couldn't walk. Mind you, the first resistance I've done in 3 months. I couldn't walk for a week and a half. And then coming back, it was just back to the grind. Everyone's like, "Hey, why aren't you resting? Why aren't you resting?" There's no finish line. No one cares what I did last month. It's done. Like, it's on to the next now. What I did last month didn't retire mom and dad, or didn't put them in a big house. I'm not finished. It's just, there's no finish line. That goes for your mind, for all your mental battles as well. There is no finish line. And you can relate that to life. Never be satisfied, because if you be satisfied, then you're going to be waiting for that day you're happy and satisfied. It's always going to be a battle. Every day is a battle. Some days are better than others, but every day it's a battle.
That's it, bro. And I'm fucking keen to see what happens in 2024, man. That'll be amazing.
Yeah, that's going to be at least I can train for it this time.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. I can organize things a lot better and train for it. That was the biggest thing that got me, was just my ligaments and tendons had no time to adapt. That's why I think it took 40 days, because my tendons and ligaments just were not adapted to that beforehand.
Yeah, well, dude, as we start to wrap up, I've loved this chat, dude. But what does having a better life mean to you?
To me, having a better life would mean, if I relate it back to 2018 Kane, a better life is for me now is being able to sit in a room for 5 minutes by myself and have a conversation with myself in my head and not get overwhelmed. I think having a better life is hard, but it's winning the battle every day. I think having a better life is winning the battle every day. And that's all you can ask for. Like, you're not going to be Superman every day. If you can win that battle every day, you can put your head on your pillow at night and rest easy. The next day might be a battle, but guess what? The next day's not there yet. So I think having a better life just means winning that battle. And even if you don't win the battle, you win it if you get up the next day and go again. That's really what winning is.
Yeah, adapting and overcoming.
100%. It is as simple as that. It's just, we refuse to believe it's as simple as that, because when you start doing it and it's as simple as it really is, you're like, what took me so long? Like, what? Like, you just, once you're in it, you're like, then you start wanting to tell other people how to get out of it, because you found a way. But then you've got to understand what you would have believed and thought of when someone else is telling you that. And it's just, no one's going to change unless they're ready to.
That's it. And as humans, we like to overcomplicate things, so it seems way more harder to do, which means it makes it easier for us not to do.
Yeah, easier for us to talk ourselves out of it and be all right with talking ourselves out of it as well, because we just make it so hard, make it so complicated that we're like, it's literally just to make us be able to sleep at night. Because if you don't convince yourself, then you don't sleep at night. So you've got to convince yourself, and then you never truly rest. Because if you're not going to bed with your head on the pillow at peace to some extent, are you really resting when you're sleeping? Because your mind's racing when you wake up.
Yeah. How do you define success?
I think it's different to everyone. I think success, if I'm going to give it, I mean, there's so many different meanings that I just don't think there is a meaning for it. But if I was to give it one, I would say it's just working towards something. If you're just going living your every life, like you're working week in, week out, if you're providing for your family, that's a different ballgame. But if you're just a teen that's at my age and you're just working week in, week out partying and you got nothing to look like, well, like you can't just say success is different to everyone. Just like people say balance, you need balance just to make them feel better about their balance. So I don't think there is a definition for it really. I just think it's, within yourself, because when you can talk up there and you can be all right with yourself and you're not going to places of bad anxiety, bad depression, you can then tell yourself, that's success. If you can win the battles, like I said, what's a better life? What's success? Winning the battle. Because that's the first thing that happens every day is winning the battle. And that's just getting out of bed. Whether you want to get out of bed or not want to get out of bed, it's still a battle throughout the whole day. And you've got to celebrate those small wins. I know winning that battle is such a small win. You've got to celebrate that small win. That's what I learned. I wasn't even going to celebrate this. And it's just winning those small battles and celebrating those small battles, because then it gives you confidence to win the bigger ones.
Love that, dude. And last question, Kane, when your time's all up and done on this earth, what would you like to be remembered for?
Being a crazy ass motherfucker. I want to be remembered as being a fucking crazy psycho ass motherfucker. Like, I know it's so like, I just feel like I look up to Dave Goggins so much. Like, obviously, I'm going to be me. I learned that the first year trying to be Goggins, trying to do those sort of things. But I learned I have to do my own version. But I just want to be remembered as a crazy. Like when people say Kane, the first thing that comes to people's mind when my name's mentioned, obviously I want to have a footprint on the kids and all that. But first thing I want someone to say is, that motherfucker was crazy. That's what I love. I love that. That's what I want to be remembered for. Just being in a good way, but being crazy.
That's it, baby. Who's going to carry the boats?
Exactly. Ain't no one else knows. That's the biggest one.
Fuck yeah, bro. Kane, I've loved this chat. We've lost track a few times, but we got there. We made it to the end, dude. And it's been real. It's been raw. And I've loved every moment of it, man. So thank you.
No, thank you for having me. That's when you know you're in a flow state and you have an actual conversation when you lose track because you're lost in the conversation. So that's that wonderful, brother. Appreciate it as well. Appreciate you having me on as well. My first one, so virginity gone. I'm not a virgin anymore.
That's it, bro. And for the listeners, where's the best place to find you on social media?
Just on Instagram. So Cain Rice _ and as I get into December and January, I'll be posting a lot more as what I start to do next year and things. But yeah, you can follow the journey on there. On my highlights, I have from day 1 to 44. So a bit of fun watching through those as well.
Yep, the fucking Baby Gazelle, watch him walk. Fuck, that was funny.
I watch that sometimes. I just go on there and just watch it because my legs just wouldn't walk. They just wouldn't work. I had to lift from my hips rather than it was just so weird. Baby Gazelle.
Oh God. But dude, yeah, thank you once again for the listeners. Go check what Kane's doing. If you got some value from this episode, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. All that good stuff just helps me to keep growing and reach more people. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Cheers.